In World War II, a visible flame could be shielded, but smoke was betrayal. Smoke drifted, lingered, and announced presence to aircraft patrols and distant observers long before heat or light could be detected. For commandos, downed air crews, resistance fighters, and forward observers, fire was still necessary for warmth, cooking, and morale, but it had to disappear into the air without a trace. Out of this pressure came a Firecraft method that produced steady heat for hours while releasing almost no visible smoke. It was not a gadget or a fuel trick. It was a disciplined way of arranging air, fuel, and ignition that forced the fire to burn completely rather than smoulder. This guide explains that forgotten method and why it remains one of the cleanest fire systems ever used in the field. This section explains why most fires smoke even when fuel is dry. Smoke is unburned fuel. It forms when volatile gases released from wood do not receive enough heat or oxygen to combust fully. You know, traditional campfires are usually lit from the bottom, which means the cold wood stacked above releases gases that just escape before they can even ignite. Dampness makes this problem even worse, but honestly, even dry wood will smoke if the combustion isn't complete. During the Second World War, Firecraft experts actually focused on reversing this whole process, making sure those gases were burned rather than wasted. So this section, it reveals the core wartime trick known as top-driven combustion. The key technique here was, well, igniting the fire from the top and forcing the heat to travel downward through the fuel. So, instead of lighting tinder underneath a pile of wood, operators would carefully stack the fuel in descending size, with the finest material right on top and the densest pieces at the bottom. Then the fire was lit at that top layer. As it burned downward, the heat preheated the fuel below. Gases released from lower wood passed upward through an already burning zone and ignited instead of escaping as smoke. This single change transformed fire behavior completely. This section explains how airflow was controlled to sustain clean burn. World War II practitioners combined top ignition with controlled airflow, often using shallow pits or trench-like shelters rather than open fires. The goal was not concealment alone, but oxygen management. Air entered from low openings, fed the combustion zone, and exited vertically through heat-driven draft. This steady airflow prevented choking and eliminated the need for constant tending. When airflow matched fuel density, the fire stabilized and burned with a steady, nearly invisible exhaust. This section explores how fuel preparation mattered more than fuel quantity. Fuel was selected and prepared with discipline. Wood was split to expose dry interior surfaces, even if the exterior was damp. Bark was minimized because it traps moisture and smoulders. Hardwoods were preferred for long burns, with softer woods used only in the ignition layer. This hierarchy ensured that once the fire established, it transitioned into a long-lasting coal bed rather than a smoking flame front. This section explains why the fire could burn for hours without attention. Because combustion moved downward slowly, the fire regulated itself. Fresh fuel did not collapse into the flame zone suddenly. Instead, it was consumed progressively as heat reached it. This eliminated flare-ups and smoke spikes. World War II field manuals emphasized patience at ignition and restraint afterward. A properly built fire did not need feeding. Interference often caused more smoke than benefit. This section gives practical ways the method can still be applied today. To recreate this fire in a survival or historical context, begin by selecting dry interior wood and splitting it to consistent sizes. Stack the largest pieces at the base, medium pieces above, and fine kindling at the top. Light only the top layer and allow the fire to establish before adjusting airflow. Avoid stirring or adding fuel until the upper layers collapse naturally. The result is a steady heat source suitable for cooking, warmth, or signaling control with minimal visible smoke. This section explains why this trick outperformed concealment fires alone. Earlier concealment fires relied on damp fuel or green wood to suppress flames, but this produced heavy smoke. The World War II method achieved the opposite by increasing combustion efficiency. It did not hide smoke, it eliminated it. This distinction mattered operationally and, well, it remains relevant for anyone needing a clean, efficient fire under scrutiny. So, let's place the technique in its historical context. This firecraft did not emerge in isolation. It drew from industrial furnace principles, charcoal making, and earlier military experience, refined, under combat conditions where mistakes were costly. After the war, recreational firebuilding favoured speed and spectacle over efficiency, and the method just faded from common knowledge. It was not forgotten because it failed. No, it was forgotten because so few people needed invisible fires anymore. So, in this section, let's take a look at why modern users still, benefit from the method. Clean burning fires use less fuel, need less attention, and, well, they reduce environmental impact. They're also safer in confined or sensitive areas, and honestly, they produce more usable heat per piece of wood. For historians, reenactors, and survival practitioners, this technique offers insight into how wartime necessity drove quiet innovation that even today outperforms more casual methods. The final part here really reinforces the value of remembering this knowledge. The hidden World War II firecraft trick, you see, actually succeeded because it respected the physics of combustion rather than fighting it. By controlling ignition, airflow, and the order of fuel, soldiers managed to achieve hours of clean heat without even a single puff of smoke. If this guide added lasting value to your understanding of historical fieldcraft and practical survival skills, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Share this episode with others who appreciate proven knowledge and, well, help keep these quiet wartime lessons alive where they still belong.